What up guys, Gadget Friendly here. In today's video, we are going to be checking out the Roborock S50. This is a 2-in-1 autonomous vacuum cleaner and mop. It's actually the second gen follow-up to the original Mi Robot vacuum cleaner that I had reviewed towards the end of last year. With this new model though, Xiaomi actually partnered up with Roborock, and together they've teamed up and they've turned it up a notch. So there have been a number of refinements to the hardware, which means it's now less likely to get caught on cords or stuck under beds. They've also added a new self-dampening mopping system so that if you have hardwood floors or tiles, it can be used for wet cleanup. And they've updated the mobile app so that it now features the abilities to do a spot cleanup or a zoned cleanup, or even enable a special carpet detection mode. So those are just a few of the changes. There are many details to go over in the video, but to get started, let's first do a quick unboxing and intro into the hardware, and then after, I'll walk you guys through that updated application and we'll get a good look at the vacuum in action. So when opening the packaging for the first time, what you'll see sitting right on top is going to be this transparent floor mat. Its primary purpose is to attach around the base station and act as a resting place for the vacuum to sit when it's charging or not in use. Right beneath that is going to be the instructional guide. The written documentation in this case is in English, so for those looking for a hand in terms of the initial setup or configuration, this should be a great starting point. Looking towards the top of the packaging, we'll also get a quick look here at the detachable mopping module. We're going to be looking at this in additional detail in just a bit, so stay tuned for more on it. And then just underneath the bigger cardboard insert, we also have the S50 itself. Going back up to the top, beneath that mopping module, there's also a cable included for connecting your base station to the wall outlet. And then they have the dock, which seems to have gotten much smaller with this new model. So that's it for a quick preview of what's included in the packaging. Let me get all of this stuff out of the box, and then we'll get a detailed look at the hardware next before we move on to the mobile app. So up first, here's a better look at the redesigned base station. With this second gen model, they've totally done away with the cable management system. So instead of being able to tuck it in the back, you'll just find it hanging out to the side now, bundled up, which for me seems like a fair trade-off for the size decrease. Also, in their effort to make it smaller, they've repositioned the charging contacts towards the bottom rather than the back, and that's also helped out quite a bit. And then, of course, behind the black, we still have all of the sensors to help with positioning when the vacuum is in use and returning home and stuff along those lines. When it comes to the vacuum itself, let's go over some of the details, starting first here on the top. You'll see now with this new model that there are 3 separate physical buttons rather than just the one. The first here is for activating a spot cleanup, the middle is for powering it on or off, and the last is for sending it back to the charging station. In the center, we have the newly redesigned LDS sensor also, which now has a vertical pressure detection mechanism. This means it's going to recognize when it's hitting something from above, and it should help with preventing it from getting jammed up beneath objects. Last, if we open up the lid, here in this area, you'll find the cleaning brush for blade maintenance, which is now stored directly on the vacuum, and also the removable debris bin, which catches all of the stuff picked up during the cleanup job. Looking closer at the vacuum from its front next, here you'll find the ultrasonic proximity sensor, which is used to detect the distance between objects and the vacuum using sound waves. Again at the top, here is another angle on that LDS sensor. This also spins 360 degrees to scan the room and to help with mapping out the cleanup area. On the left-hand side of the front bumper, we also have a collision detection sensor, which when triggered tells the vacuum to reposition or adjust its route due to an obstacle. Looking next at the bottom of the vacuum, here's a better look at the self-dampening mopping system. It's essentially a small reservoir of water covered with a detachable terry cloth rag and a small wheel to assist with movement. It can click easily in and out of place for refill or for storage when not in use, and it even has instructions printed across its top to help with breaking down how to properly use it and store it for first-time users. Next, for the bottom, we also have the 2 retractable wheels, which are used for lifting and navigation. These wheels are also designed for use on a variety of surfaces, so you'll see that the tread on them seems to be fairly rugged to match. Towards the center, we also have the orange brush, which is the main cleaning brush used for routing debris to the storage bin. It can also click easily in and out of place for when it's time to To the left, we have the side brush, which is used primarily for getting into cracks and crevices when running along your baseboards. Just to the right of that, we also have the 2 charging contacts to match up with the one seen on the base station earlier. There's also a wheel at the top for directional movement, and then we have these cliff sensors which span across the frontal perimeter and help with detecting edges. That way, it prevents the vacuum from falling downstairs. Last, for a quick look at the vacuum's hardware, on the back we have these two fans. The one on the left is used for dispelling hot air, and then on the right we have the intake fan for bringing cool air in and ensuring that everything is running nice and smooth. So that's it for a walkthrough on the vacuum's hardware. Now that we've checked that out in detail, let's next get a good look at the companion app for iOS, and then after, we'll look at the vacuum in use. Once you've set up and connected the S50 to your Wi-Fi, you'll have full control of it through the companion application. Tapping into its icon from the main screen here is going to take you first to a graphical representation of the most recent cleaning job. The path in which it took should be traceable using the white outline, that way you know exactly which areas it was able to clean. And then at the top of the app, it'll also give its current operational status, that way you can see what it's doing. Right now mine is charging. If you look at the bottom, we have some cleaning stats and shortcuts. The first row of stats gives the size of the most recent cleaning area, its remaining battery levels, and how long it actually cleaned up. In the second row, we have shortcuts for enabling different behaviors. Clicking the go icon will enable a tap to clean mode where you just point it to a certain area and it cleans automatically. On the right of that, we also have a shortcut for sending it home to charge or enabling a cleanup of the immediate area. The last icon is for enabling a zoned cleanup, which is similar to the spot cleanup, but you highlight the area yourself that you want it to focus on, so the cleaning area is totally customizable. Next, diving in deeper to the app, let's get a look at the advanced settings area, which is accessible via the three dots in the upper right corner. I'm just going to quickly walk through each menu listed so you guys know what to expect. The first one is for vacuum settings, where you can change things like the vacuum's time zone, its volume, or enable the auto carpet detection or do not disturb modes. Beneath that menu, we also have the option for a timer. If you'd like, you can set it to operate on a schedule. That way it doesn't interfere with other activities you may have going on at home. Under the cleanup mode option, we have the ability to configure the vacuum's power or noise levels. There are 4 presets here, so depending on the operating conditions, you have a few different options that should suit different scenarios. There's also a voice pack area. Depending on your location, you can come here to see if there is a voice pack available for your language. Under the general settings area, you'll find settings for things like changing the device name, sharing the device, deleting it from your account, checking for updates, or giving feedback. The cleaning history area is an archive of data from your past cleaning jobs. If for some reason you need to refer back, you can come here and you can pull it up easily for review. Under the care area, you'll get real-time stats regarding the different brushes and sensors. That way, if anything is ever in need of replacement or cleaning, you'll know exactly what is affected and what needs to be looked at. Getting towards the end, under the user manual and customer support area, you'll find all sorts of written documentation, tips, and videos regarding the vacuum and its operation. It's all been broken down into easy to follow along with categories, and there's even a FAQ area or an area where you can reach out to support directly through the app. Last, we have the remote controls area. If there's ever a time where you need to take control of the vacuum manually, they do allow so, and you're able to navigate it using a set of predefined buttons or even using a joystick option. So that's it for the walkthrough on the companion app. I tried to make it as quick as possible. Now that we've gone over that, let's get some demos out of the way and I'll give you guys a good look at the vacuum in action. So when starting the cleanup job with the Roborock S50, it seemed to start the job in very much the same ways we saw with the first gen. So first it spun itself up and then it turned a bit to its right and then it reversed itself and it proceeded to maneuver alongside the baseboards and straight down the hall and into the laundry room. The laundry room has a slight lip to it when coming and going, and with the first gen model, sometimes it get caught here for a second before being able to leave, but the new model powered right over it on the first try and it didn't even have to think twice about it. Once the vacuum was back out into the hall, it went alongside the baseboards again, but this time on the opposite side, and when it made it to the main living room area, it proceeded with moving around the room and completing its initial mapping of the cleanup area. Once that had completed, it started to slowly move back and forth in an S-like pattern, cleaning up the living room floor until it had covered every inch and it auto-docked itself. So that's pretty much a quick visual representation of my first cleanup job using the S50, but I still do have more to show off in terms of usage. So for the next test, I wanted to give a quick demo of the cliff sensors in action. This was a pretty simple test, being that I just set it on the counter and set it to do a spot clean. I'm not gonna lie though, it was pretty nerve-wracking to watch at first, but it did a great job, and positionally, it was aware each time that it got close to the edge, and the vacuum was able to correct itself to prevent going over without any trouble. Next, I also wanted to give a better look at the self-dampening mopping system. After having used it a few times, I feel that I can give some honest feedback on it, and what I found is that it is well designed, and they've done a great job with the integration, but the vacuum's downward force in some cases is simply not enough to totally eliminate stubborn residue. For 99% of your everyday spills though, and lightweight cleanup jobs, it's more than sufficient, and I found that the module makes excellent contact with the ground, and the trail that it leaves behind dissipates relatively quickly, so it's not overly leaky. As far as maintenance goes, the terry cloth-like fabric on the bottom isn't going to last forever, and it's designed to take a beating, so you may find that it requires cleaning or replacement from time to time. Also worth noting is that it's not going to dry on its own unless you've removed all water, so when a mopping job is done, be sure to detach the module and drain it and set it to the side for use again later, otherwise you may suffer some unintended consequences. To finish up the review, last I wanted to give a look at some debris cleanup testing. These are just a few quick samples of the vacuum in action being manually controlled or being set to do a spot clean. The first test was on the hardwood flooring and using paper shreds. In this sample, I just had it do a single pass over the paper bits, and it was able to clean up nearly all of the debris on the first pass, even when using the default balance setting. I did a follow-up test also using some dirt from outside in the spot cleanup mode. I thought this would be a good secondary test since it's a little more common and the texture is totally different, and what I found is that overall it did a pretty good job, but there was still some particles left over after the cleanup had finished. I think the reasoning for this is that since the dirt is lighter weight, it is a little more easily blown around by the vacuum's movements, so there are still some leftovers that would need to be picked up in a subsequent pass or maybe even by using a higher suction power. Continuing with my debris cleanup testing, I also replicated these same scenarios but on carpet. For this, I did enable the carpet detection mode setting, that way it ramped up by default to the highest suction power and it was most efficient. What I found on the carpeting testing is that in general, the vacuum had no trouble with regards to its movement, even when transitioning between carpet and rug, so it is well suited for operation in this kind of environment. Now, as far as the debris testing goes, when testing with the paper shreds, I took manual control over the vacuum and I set it to pass over the cleanup area once first. And on that first pass, it seemed to pick up the majority of the material directly in its path, but it did take a second pass to pretty much get what was left remaining. So kind of the same as what we're seeing with the dirt testing on the hardwood flooring. But last for the review, I did a second test on the carpet using the dirt from outside again, and surprisingly the vacuum was actually a little more effective with the smaller dirt particles on the carpeting, getting nearly everything on the first pass because I think it wasn't as easy to blow around. So that's pretty much it for the debris cleanup demo. And as a whole, I think the vacuum did great on both types of surfaces. So that's going to conclude my review, guys. Let me wrap this up now, and I'm going to leave you all with some final thoughts. Fuck, a juicy mouth.